Stop the cap.
I should not be reading messages while I'm at traffic lights, because then I want to make a video response and then I'm not in the booth. And plus, trying to drive and think at the same time, it shit just ain't happening for me sometimes. But anyway, now that I'm irritated, I feel compelled to make a video. Plus, I got quite a distance to drive, so might as well do it now. But I've been meaning to respond back to one of my it's not even a suspected white supremacist. Tariq Nasheed likes to say suspected white supremacist, but one of the white supremacists that come on my page and they leave these like uninformed comments all the time. They have all these stereotypes about black people, and like, oh, your community is this way because of this, is this way because of that, and white people, we're the best, we're the greatest, right? And what's funny to me is, like, it's like if any black person does anything, a black person robs a liquor store, and I'm saying this is within the confines of the system that has discriminated and marginalized black people, cut them off at the knees when it comes to generating and creating avenues of wealth, coming into black spaces and black communities, purging them, burning them down, running highways through them, right? Completely undermining black people establishing any economic foundation. And I talked about this before, where they, white folks then complain about the outcome of that, which is, basically what you see, the dysfunction that you see in the black community that inevitably spills over into their community. And then they cry and then they bitch and then they act like, the point of conception for these problems is just, some innate bullshit that's in black people's DNA, not the system that they set up, right? And I find it funny that when it comes to, millennials and zillennials economically failing and not being able to start their life and all the stuff that we see, and I just watching some post about, I don't know, some person in Congress that was bitching about, oh, the reason why white men aren't joining the military is because the military is too woke and there's too many diversity quotas and woke people, like as though young white men want to go off to war and die. Like as though that's what they want to do. I mean, they got these like boomer old school mentalities of the shit. But anyway, the point that I was going to make is, whenever like white people control the system, and when the system doesn't work for them, they seem to just run around and find excuses. I'm like, we weren't at the controls, we weren't at the helm. That was your people that were at the helm. And not only that, it's funny how, okay, a black guy knocks over a liquor store, it's the blacks. But when Larry Fink and Jamie Dimon go out here and buy up all the homes for through BlackRock and shit, and JP Morgan and all that stuff, right? When they do that, that's not a reflection of the evils of white people, right? That's the white elite. Why isn't that a pathology of whiteness? Right? The same way that a black guy knocking over a liquor store is the blacks. How come Larry Fink and Jamie Dimon and all of their fucking greed, how come that's not the whites? How come I can't say that? How come I can't take that demographic and then just smear it all over the white community and call it good, the same way that you do black people? I'm saying, at least Larry Fink and Jamie Dimon and whoever else, all the other people who don't want to pay people, like fucking Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and shit. Oh, the white birth rate is down, but we don't want to pay anybody enough to facilitate families and purchase a home. We don't want to do that. Fucking Amazon's fucking at-will employees. Amazon on their job application, they actually, like, if you apply for a managerial position, in the application, they actually have it to where they have a math test where they give you a certain number of employees, and then they try to try to get you to fill the spots without having somebody go into overtime. They want to eliminate overtime because, that's money out the door, right? And I know that there's a balance between overtime. Like Cap, he told me about General Motors and how, like, if you were abusing overtime, they would have a problem with it because they really weren't trying to pay overtime. They were like, keep that shit like, reasonable. You know what I mean? But if you wanted to go in there and make a few extra dollars, you know what I mean, and you started taking other people's spots because, they had the whole tenure and seniority thing, you could go in there and you could do that. And, it wasn't, they wasn't stressing like that. It was only if you were like abusing the shit, like you just went out to your car and pitched the damn, opened the sleeping bag, and you were just like, oh, I'm gonna be in here for the next, 16 hours a day, and then they would be like, hey, man, we gotta pay you all that money, like we gotta, you can't be doing this on the regular. But anyway, I'm just saying, like, it kills me how white people run around with this idea of their racial superiority, their ability to create communities and societies, right? That's essentially at everybody else's expense, right? Because remember, and one of the most profound comments a brother left in my comment section, and I feel bad for not being able to give him credit because I forget who said it, but where they pointed out that the default system for white society is feudalism. It's feudalism. Capitalism is not the default system. It's feudalism, right? And when you look at it, where am I going? I'm trying to go. I'm freaking going the wrong direction. Anyway, yeah, their system is feudalism. Kings, queens, nobles, and peasants. I said this numerous times. Their system is not, a system where they're trying to elevate all white people over all the other races. Not as much as people previously thought. Not as much as I even previously thought. I mean, when you look at what's going on now, this is the Gilded Age 2.0. That is what you're looking at. If you watch that documentary that I found about the Gilded Age, it's the Gilded Age 2.0. Okay, where you got, white middle class America, they're out here struggling. And whose fault is that? Whose greed is that? Is it the greed of the African? Is it the greed of the Chinese? Is it the greed of the Arab? No, it's the greed of the white people who look like you. What white people need to face the fact is you all have a class warfare across generational lines. That is what you're going through and experience right now. Your grandparents don't give a fuck about you. Okay? They're going to squeeze every ounce of sustenance out of this turnip and leave nothing left for you. And you all you haven't figured that out yet. You're still running around, the reason why I can't buy a house is because the blacks are breathing up all the white man's air. Like, you guys are still on that bullshit. We don't own the Fortune 500 companies. We don't control the institutions, right? We don't control the banks. We don't control, why your 401k, went down the toilet in 2009. We don't control none of that shit. The people who control that are the people who look like you. Them white folks that are at them Ivy League schools and those expensive ass universities. And that's the crazy thing. Y'all be claiming, right, as a group that you're the smartest people in the world, right? White people are the smartest people in the world. Look at what we have set up, and you can't even maintain the shit. You can't even fucking maintain the shit. I had a guy that I was going to address about, women being on OnlyFans. I see all these white guys bitching about, they're part of the manosphere, and they're complaining about OnlyFans and the women, and this was the decay of Western civilization. Whose fault is that? Right? Seriously speaking, what would you have these white women do? Seriously speaking, right? Y'all the ones that codified this, traditional 1950s fucking patriarchy, and you don't even hold that shit like a sacred cow. You make it impossible for the system to work, right? You don't want to pay young white men enough to basically provide for a family and take care of family. Then you're bitching about the fact, so you create this whole culture of, hard work, personal responsibility, and, if you can't afford kids, then maybe you shouldn't have them, right? You create that, and that's exactly what the young white men do. They don't have them, right? And then, right, so they can't form family formation. Then you're bitching about getting outvoted, because the blacks and the Hispanics are having more babies than you, but yet you don't have a system set up to, again, perpetuate or be conducive to the formation of, let's be specific, white families. You don't even have a system for that. And again, where's the white supremacy in all of this? Seems to me like you all were duped. And like I said before, what you should be doing is forming Voltron with other minority groups, which you won't do because it's really about classism. It's not about race, but you won't do that. I need to stop wasting my breath and even talking about that, because you won't do that. And as a result, everybody will suffer, because real talk, it's up to white people. You're the majority of the population. What do they call that? The electorate? You're the majority of that. You're going to have to go up against your boomer parents and grandparents, and some of these Gen Xers. You're going to have to go up against that. What is Jamie Dimon? What is he? 69 years old? You're going to have to go up against that. But y'all won't, because y'all run around and you get distracted. You get distracted by it's getting phone calls. But yeah, I'm saying that's what it's going to take. The black people can't vote their way out of this, as only 13%, 14% of the population. Even with all the other minority groups combined, until it's like the year 2050, where minorities will be the majority. And again, they don't even vote all the same, because you got those that think they're white folks. They got that sort of mentality. They drank the Kool-Aid like many of you all did. But that's what you're going to have to go up against. I mean, you're bitching about, these white girls are doing OnlyFans, and I'm like, okay, let's look at it for what it is. They don't pay you enough to even do the 1950s thing, right? For the millennials and the zillennials, right? They don't want to pay you enough. The houses are too expensive, right? And yet, the other thing is, you all are simping out like crazy, because who's paying for that shit? When you see these women are like, oh, in 48 hours, I made $1 million, on fucking OnlyFans, who's fucking buying that shit? That would be your bitch ass. That would be your simp ass. Which is kind of crazy to me. But then again, I guess it's not like one person is like, dumping millions of dollars into their bank accounts. It's like $100 here, $50 here, $25 there. If you can get that from each person, you know what I'm saying? Like even for me, right? Like I got almost 12,000 subscribers. If I got $1 from each subscriber, that would be $12,000, just to right off rip. And I'm saying my channel's not even, my channel, I'm like shadow banned, suppressed, and everything else like that. So you can imagine some of the people that have bigger channels, just $1 per person. So it doesn't take a whole lot to hit those type of numbers. It just doesn't. But y'all don't think about the system that your people have created. That's not advantageous to you, and who the actual threats are. Y'all still running around, with this idea that the old model of capitalism hard work and personal responsibility will actually be rewarded. How many decades does it take to show you that it's not going to be rewarded? Now, some of the zillennials have already picked up on that. They're choosing not to go to college. They're choosing to basically be these social media influencers, which is just crazy in the long run, and America will suffer as a result. This is why they got all these people with these, H1 visas or HB1 visas or whatever they're called, because America is it's a brain drain. They're losing the talent, because even having talent no longer pays. It no longer pays. So I mean, I already hear the grumblings of people talking about working over, doing their job overseas. I mean, you got somebody came out with a video talking about how you've had passport bros get deleted, and they weren't talking about black men. They were talking about white men, and how the Colombians resent them because they come down there. They got their US dollars. They're fucking up the markets. They come to steal their women. They're like, fuck these motherfuckers. And they go down there and basically they set up these rings, these fucking honeypot situations, to try to, steal money from these guys. While these guys go down there and think that they're going to capitalize on flexing their, American dollars that will go further down there than up here. I don't know what America's going to look like in the coming years, but it's nothing good. It's nothing good. The conservatives, they can talk all that shit about white Jesus all they want. At the end of the day, if you don't have a fully functioning, stable family formation, you are going to have, teen pregnancies. You are going to have young men engaging in illegal activity. Because, I mean, that's one thing that young men are always going to want. They're always going to want access to women, a nice spot to live in, a decent vehicle. And if you're not even offering that, fuck what you talking about. And it's just going to take some time. It's going to take some time for more of the white men to wake up to the reality that the image that they've been given, the positive male identity that they've been sold, like they can no longer exchange it for anything. And that's going to be a real hard pill to swallow. And that's why that's why you see a lot of the self-deletions. That's why you see all them white boys out there in Kensington getting high on fentanyl. Right? That's why you see the mass shootings. Right? That's why you see all that shit. That's not going to go away for those that bought into this, belief. I've never seen white folks do something, as self-destructive as they've done. Like I've never seen, them, play with fire the way that they have, but they have. I mean, this is what they've done. So, as a minority, as an African American, all I can do is sit there, and watch the fire. Black people have already, again, we're used to a struggle. Black people are used to going without. Not me personally. I didn't grow up like that. But the hopes of even being able to do certain things. Like, or even the concept of even after me, my own kids. I'm like, why would I want to have kids and bring them into this? This shit is broken. And, white men, y'all still running around with these racist tropes in your head. You want to blame everybody else. The people that are at the fucking controls look like you. They look like you. I don't know why that's so hard for you to comprehend. Y'all be running around, it's the Jews, or you run around and then you say it's because some black politician is up there or something like that, just because you see a black face. When the people who run the Fortune 500 companies, the banks, the institutions, You know what I mean? All of them are white. The big dogs, the ones with the billionaires and shit. Type in billionaires and see what the fuck motherfuckers look like in America. But y'all don't do that. Y'all always out here focused on, the wrong people. Where's this at? Oh, come on.
Your wind is being calculated.
But anyway, my ass is fucking getting lost. Yeah, I think I'm going the right way. All right. So, I mean, that's all I wanted to say, for right now about it. What it's going to take is going to take a restructuring of society. It's going to take people voting on the basis of not only class, but vote on the basis of us versus the boomers. And the boomers won't even be here in the next 10 years. I don't know what Gen X is on. I don't particularly, other than Captain Solo, I don't have too many conversations with Gen Xers. A lot of the Gen Xers that I see, like Rich Cooper and shit, like he did a video recently where he was talking about, what did he say? He was talking about, we need to bring shame back. I'm like, nobody gives a fuck about your standards, Like, white guys are still running around with the idea that their standards are still mean something. I'm like, your standards don't mean anything. When you had a system where, again, in order to be, successful, you had to, placate to white folks, right? When you had to placate to white folks, and so you had like the white proletariat, they were placating to the white elite, right? And then everybody else that was a minority was placating to the general standards of white people as a collective. But at the end of the day, when the white elites ain't offering even the white proletariat shit, and then when it comes to all the other minority groups, they start to see the shit for what it is. Ain't nobody gonna kiss your motherfucking ass or give a fuck about what your particular standards are, which they've already thought was bullshit and fake and phony to begin with. Ain't nobody gonna fucking go out here and subscribe to your shit. You know what I mean? See, you don't get to be the standard anymore when your shit is failing. Your shit is failing. Your house is crumbling. And I can make arguments about how your house was built on the backs of other people, which is why people run around and say white people are evil and all that other shit. But I'm saying, even with that, it's still crumbling. It's still crumbling. And y'all don't get that. Some of you have like these weird concepts of whiteness that place or elevate. God damn, man, what the fuck are you doing? Motherfucker's slowing up for no reason. Had to zip around that motherfucker. Anyway, like what was I saying? I totally forget what I was saying because my brain, went into instinct mode. But anyway, damn, what the fuck was I saying? But anyway, I'm saying y'all don't get that. You really don't get that. You're consumed with these ideas of what it is to be white in America. And I get it because, that's what was sold, right? You never thought that the oligarchs, would fuck you over. And the stupid thing is you all always thought that shit was due to some innate quality that you all had as white people. Sorry, it wasn't. It was bullshit. It was bullshit. Y'all got a leg up. That whole fucking GI Bill, the fucking FHA loans, that were created, to give you all 30-year mortgages. That whole thing was set up, and it was fucking low interest rate, cheap capital that you were able to go off and purchase a home and pay that sucker off. But the problem is all those properties turned into investment properties because that's where a majority of white people kept their equity, is in their homes. And so they buy a house in 1960 when the average home buyer was between 24 and 25 years old. Think about that. And then, they sit on it. And I'm not saying they sat on it the entire time, but I'm saying, a generation or two, of people stayed in that house, and now the house is worth $300,000, $400,000. I mean, I looked at those houses in Levittown, PA. They actually went down a little bit, but they're still like $320,000, $330,000 for a 75-year-old home. And it's like, yeah, you're going to have that go off into perpetuity. That's going to go off forever. The price of homes just keeps going up and up forever. It has to cap out somewhere. It can't far outstrip what people are even making. It's going to be a real ugly transition that's going to happen. Because first off, the boomer generation, it was I don't think they're bigger than us now, but I'm saying they were a bigger generation. And when you look at the actual housing, and then you look at the fact that because millennials and zillennials cannot make the type of money that they want to make, they're either delaying having kids or not having kids at all, which is going to, again, make America look like Japan. And then you're going to have an overabundance of houses. Houses are no longer going to be they're going to be seen more of a liability than actually something of an investment. All this shit with the Airbnbs, all this, you're going to pay me money. It's like everybody's trying to engage in capitalism to some degree, as opposed to actually reworking the system. Because everybody's terrified of that word socialism. But at the end of the day, when you look at it, you're going to have to rework the system. All this stuff that people are trying to do is, everywhere you go on the internet, it's how to make 5 streams of income. How to gain financial independence. How to rent out some Airbnbs, and how to get a rental property and turn it into a multi-duplex. And then you take them to duplex, and then you put 4 single moms in there a piece. I'm like, so y'all are out here getting rich off of single moms? You see what I'm saying? Like, the whole shit is broken, and then nobody cares. Hey, I'm making money off of single moms. I just bought this Porsche Cayenne off of 5 single moms that I got in a duplex. You know what I mean? And then the kids, right? So like, you're one man, and then like, let's say each of those 5 women have, 1 son apiece, right? Plus daughters. But I'm saying, so now you got 1 to 5, right? You might have 2 kids. So now you got 2 to 5, no, 3 to 5, you included. In terms of like the amount of people that are growing up in dysfunction. It's just crazy. I mean, this is the same conversation we have in the black community. You gotta care. You gotta care about what's going on with black boys. You gotta care, because young men will cannibalize the community. Now, in the black community, they cannibalize the community through gang violence and the narcotics trade and all that shit, right? All the stuff you see on the 6 o'clock news. But in the white community, they cannibalize the community through militias, through mass shootings, right? Or they get engage in self-deletion, or just become degenerates and alcoholics and fucking people addicted to narcotics and shit. That's what you see what happens to them. And to me, like, that's not even the breaking point for white people. Like, there's a breaking point for white people, or white men in particular, at some point. I'm like, oh, you're gonna break them. And then I mean, what are they gonna do? What are they gonna do? The street game is already saturated with blacks and Hispanics. They don't know that game. You know what I mean? Then you'll really have some stereotypes being challenged and shit. I mean, we already started seeing that in Philadelphia with the fucking the catalytic converter rings and shit like that. Ain't no black people in the face of that. Just go Google the shit. Type in catalytic converter ring, Philadelphia, and look at the arrest and look at who's getting arrested. It ain't got nothing to do with us. Now, white folks may not engage in the same criminal activity, but they're going to engage in criminal activity. You know, and they might go to drugs because, again, like Nino Brown said, you know, when the economy's bad, you know, people are going to need a release. And this was the whole thing with the mob and the mafia. You know, even though they didn't want to partake or get involved in drugs, like Angelina Bruno of Philadelphia, you know what I mean? Motherfuckers was like, hey, the niggas over there, they making too much money. We want to get in on that. Right? But guys like, you know, I think it's Angelina Bruno, like, you know, he recognized, like, that's just not going to stay over there in the black community. That shit, drugs, that shit spills everywhere. You'll have a bunch of fucking Italian chicks. You'll have Gina walking around looking like a fucking zombie and shit, which is exactly what you see in Kensington, you know, Philadelphia. The other thing is, we got to talk about these it's white conservatives, these white people that try to police everybody else's making of money. You know, the people that are like, you know, I'm making peanuts and you should work for peanuts, and if you're not working for peanuts, you know, you're not a hard worker. It's like, motherfucker, ain't nobody supposed to work for peanuts. But you get these like conservative Gen X boomer voices, you know, where they're always pocket watching. And again, my whole thing is, motherfucker, if you're that uptight about somebody else making some damn good money, then why don't we talk about you making more money? Like I mean, nobody has been more suckered than working class white folks. You know, and especially working class white men, because, you know, they feel some type of way, right? Because, like, society is like, oh, they should be at the top because, you know, it's a white nation and white people, you know, we built this shit. You know, all that Richard Spencer talk, right? But they can't tap into it, right? Because they're a part of the white proletariat, right? They're the guys that do a lot of the back-breaking work. They do the back-breaking work. You know what I mean? But, you know, over time, like, their shit has been cut. And they feel like that the only people who should be making money when you want to have a discussion about money are people who make backbreaking work. There's a lot of people that struggle with intellectual work versus backbreaking work. You know, and they talk like, oh yeah, we don't believe in socialism, we only believe in capitalism. But then they don't really understand how capitalism works. Like that Asian girl over there in China that did it, like, literally she held products for like 3 seconds and was sliding all these orange boxes. I'm sure some of y'all seen it. You know what I mean? She's sitting there, the motherfucker's passing her the box. She holds up there. What gosh, what's hey? What next box? Who's that? Next box. What's that? Next box. Right? That bitch made $18 million doing that bullshit. And then you say, how is she making that type of money? Well, she's making that type of money because those products actually fucking moved. Those products got sold. Now, who's more important? The truck driver that was shipping those products, or the guy in the warehouse, right? That's on the forklift, right? Because let's put it this way: if that bitch didn't get those products sold, right? Because as Captain Solo used to mimic a guy at GM that used to always say this: final assembly pays the bills. Doesn't matter how motherfucking hard you work. Final assembly pays the bills. So even though you're sitting there looking at this Chinese chick saying, what the fuck? Why that bitch making that type of money? Well, well, if she's making that type of money, imagine how much money the company was actually able to make. And they wouldn't have been able to move the products like they moved if it wasn't for her. You see? You know, so when I hear all this talk about, you know, hard work and as opposed to like concepts of being assets to companies and corporations, right? Because like I mean, that is what capitalism is, right? Like, so the company can only pay you, right? Like what like what your level of productivity is to the company, and they're making more money, off of your productivity than what they're paying you. That's how the shit works. They got to make more money. They're in the business to make money. Now, the problem is when that shit falls below the threshold of what most people think should be an American quality of life. And like, I've talked about before with the sort of globalist, where they go around the world looking for the cheapest amount of labor because labor is an expense, right? When they can do that and then come back to the United States tariff free, right? There's no protection. Man, I already told you what the deal was, and you calling me again. Anyway, what was I talking about? About how capitalism works and whatnot. Them going overseas. Like I told you, they're just going to take a barge, move it off the coast of a country, manufacture projects on the barge, products on the barge, for a certain period of time until the standard of living of that country goes up, and then just move the barge to another third world country and then get the products manufactured there. This is part of the problem, that there essentially are no new markets. Although people will argue that Africa is a new market. And that's why many African Americans should be looking to do business in Africa, but that's a whole nother conversation. See everybody else going there. But, the fact of the matter is if I'm trying to think whether I should say white Americans or, all of us as a whole, which again, I still look at white Americans, because I'm like, you're a majority of the people who vote. As long as y'all the ones drinking the Kool-Aid, y'all the ones that keep thinking that everything is because of everybody else, as opposed to the people who look like you. Fucking Dwight Eisenhower warned about the military-industrial complex. And y'all bitching about, they sending all this money over to Ukraine and sending money over to Israel. Why is AIPAC even a thing? Why do we have so much money in politics, whether it's lobbyists from the corporation? How does Nancy Pelosi have a net worth of $120 million? That's definitely inside trading. Definitely, all these politicians, all these senators that are making guap off of things that are not in the interest of the American people. And then y'all fall for the okie doke. They go up there, they say, hard work, personal responsibility, my bootstraps, law and order, America, and y'all fall for this shit every fucking time. They didn't say shit. They didn't say shit about unions. They didn't say shit about full medical and dental. They didn't say shit about fixing this country's fucking infrastructure. They didn't say anything about highways, high-speed railways, which every other, modern nation in the world has. It always kills me whenever they come to gun control. They're like, well, other modern nations around the world, they have gun laws, right? They'll say that, right? But then when it comes to all the other stuff that other nations have that America doesn't have, they don't bring any of that shit up. Where the fuck are the high-speed railways? Oh, no, we're going to got that because we want you to buy gasoline. That's what we want you to do. Yeah, that's what we need, gasoline. All this over bloated shit. Captain Planet would have a motherfucking fit. It's like you got fucking people like Duke Nukem and shit. Not Duke Nukem. That's the other video game. Lootin' Pollutin'. You got Lootin' Pollutin' running all the corporations and shit. They don't give a fuck about you and your family and your Wonder Years American dream and lifestyle. Y'all don't be getting that shit. Y'all always out here, it's because the blacks, hard work and responsibility. Y'all fall for that okie doke. I've seen a couple, I'm glad I see TikToks of young white people getting pissed off. I'm glad. And black people, we should be sitting there like, we told you so. We told you so. Now, are you ready to form Voltron or what? We told you. We tried to tell you. It ain't gonna be no, nigga, get to the back of the bus type of shit that y'all like to do. We told you what the fucking deal was. You know, like y'all didn't listen. Y'all was like, oh, y'all believe all this bullshit about black people, and now it's happening to y'all, and y'all crying and shit. I can't afford to feed my family. I can't afford to buy a house. I can't do this. Why should I even live? You know, y'all out here crying all over the internet. You know, I mean, and then shit gets into some real nasty shit, right? Because if you really look at it, like even shit like OnlyFans, right? Like you know, white guy runs that shit. You know what I mean? Like you start exploiting your own people for your own benefit. Yeah, man, I'm gonna take these white bitches, I'm gonna put them up there, and I'm gonna sully white women's image all over the internet. Because if you think that shit hasn't sullied white women's image, you got another thought coming. Now you got white men running around the internet talking about, oh, these white women are whores. Oh, they're all whores. Oh, all mad and shit. There's no wifey material here. Like I told you, when you got you know, white supremacists like fucking Undead Chronic talking about going to Asia to fucking get some bitches. You know, I'm like, see, you done fucked up. You done fucked up. You know, I mean, the sad part is like the white community has to come to terms with how sociopathic it is. They need to look into the mirror as opposed to looking out the window. They love to look out the window and be like, oh, look at that. Well, honey, come look at this. Look at those other people. No, you need to look at yourselves. Look at your crumbling system. But if you notice, if you go on the internet, you look at the Fox News, you look at all this shit, they're always up there talking about other people. They talk about immigration and criminals and vagrants and, you know, people coming to America, and they never ask, like, and you very rarely see them say anything about why that's happening. Why is that being allowed? Because the oligarchs want their motherfucking cheap labor. But you don't, like, they don't want to pay you. So if we recognize they're bringing immigrants in because they don't want to pay you and they want to be able to exploit them, why are you still running around talking about hard work, personal responsibility, and my bootstraps? Why are you still they're literally bringing in immigrants in your fucking face, and you're still running around talking about my bootstraps? Like, how does that work? They don't want to fucking pay you. They don't care about your American dream. That's why they call it an American dream, as George Carlin said, because you gotta fucking be a fucking sleep to believe in it. You gotta be dreaming to believe in it. You know, but y'all don't get that. Y'all still out here drinking the Kool-Aid. You know, and I see it all the time. It's slowly changing. The narrative is slowly changing, but y'all still got animosity and resentment and everything else towards black people. And yes, as black people, we're still making our demands for reparations. Fuck that. Just because, oh, times are bad, we can't afford that. Fuck that. Clearly, y'all, the system can afford to throw billions of dollars at fucking Ukraine. White people are always going to be saying it. Every time reparations comes up, or correcting the wrongs that were specifically done against the black community, white people are all, oh, it's not the time, it's not the time, it's not the time. You know, we you know, there's always never enough money. Let them tell it. Meanwhile, corporations are running around screaming about how they're making record profits for shareholders. That's another thing. You know, employees are going to have a stake. The actual employees have to have a stake in the company when it comes to shares, which would lean back towards the concept of socialism. Some of you don't even understand the definition of socialism, where employees actually have a stake in the company. See, when you got a stake in a company, like, it should be set up to where, like, if you're an employee of a particular company, you get a certain amount of stock options or something like that before anybody else. The people who work for the corporation, they get all the inside trading. That's how it should be. But if you really look at the way that the system is set up, right? Like, employees don't buy into the corporation, or they can't. And then you have, then you have shareholders that actually run everything. And then on the other end, when it comes to the politicians, you have, the lobbyists and the corporations that basically fund politicians' campaigns. And if they don't get the funding, they can't win, because we don't have a sophisticated electorate. We don't have a sophisticated population. Well, I would say the millennials and the zillennials are way more sophisticated than the boomers, and because all that shit, all those stupid ass ads of fucking, I approve this message. We don't give a fuck about that. We really don't. We're like, yo, what is your game plan? Just like that shit with Van and the young lady that was addressing Larry Elders. Like Larry, okay, so what is your plan for fatherlessness in the black community? So you're acknowledging that fatherlessness is a problem. Larry, what is your fucking solution? I need you to acknowledge this. Larry, what is your fucking solution? It's your campaign, Larry. That was my favorite line. It's your campaign, Larry. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't go for the okie doke. You know what I mean? Motherfucking boomers and Gen Xers, they try to pull that these aren't the droids you're looking for shit on us. That shit don't work, motherfucker. Your Jedi mind tricks don't work on me. I need to know about what the fuck it is you're doing for me. What are we getting out of it? If we ain't getting shit, nigga, eat a dick. These votes are not for free. And that needs to be the approach. But that's not the approach that we have. We have this, the boomers are still in the way, and honestly, I think when it comes to this next election, which I already know, I hate the fact that this election is what it is, because if Trump wins, then the argument will be, oh, it's because this is against the wokeness, right? That'll be the argument. Where it's some of that, but that's not all of it. The other thing is, if Biden wins, the thing is a lot of younger people are more progressive in their thinking. We do have a divide with the men, because the men don't care for all the LGBTQ shit and, all the feminism and things that don't empower men, where it's just dumb. It's dumb to empower women. I'm sorry, ladies, but it's just dumb to empower you all. It's dumb. Why? Because you only want to date hypergamously. You only want to date up. And the system does have to be as such where, the majority of men seem economically viable to you all. If that doesn't happen, you just end up with a community of fucking single mothers and fucking broken shit and split households and high divorce rates and everything, and that's not what we want. So Trump's gonna get a lot of votes just off of the strength of that. He's gonna clean house with the male vote. As it pertains to the youth vote, I think that a lot of people want to vote for a more progressive candidate. But, the problem is that Joe Biden hasn't done anything progressive. And the liberals are essentially just as bad, as, what people think about like corporate Republicans. They're just as bad. They give, the only difference is they give some of the social issues lip service. They'll actually speak to some of it and acknowledge it. But they ain't about to do fuck all about it. So we have a system that doesn't work. The only way that it's going to work is you got to clean house. You got to get these dinosaurs out of there. You got to vote them out. It should be, honestly, seriously speaking, you should be looking at the ballot on an age basis. That's what you do. All these people that are 70 and 80 years old, what the fuck are they doing in there? Get them the fuck out. You need to be voting on the basis of class, and you need to be voting on the basis of age. That's what you need to be voting on. Because the boomers are and the dinosaurs are looking out for their benefit. They will die in their multi-million-dollar homes with their $10 million portfolios and shit. Some of that is going to trickle down to the millennials who are fortunate enough to have rich white grandparents and parents and shit like that. But I'm just saying this. I think we recognize at this point that this shit does not work, and I think that people, after recognizing some of this and going through some of it, will have a lot more understanding when it comes to their own kids and their kids getting established. America should have a protectionist attitude in terms of jobs and economic opportunities and infrastructure and shit. I personally just hate the whole financial system. It's dumb to me. It's made up. Fractional reserve banking, printing more money, and then it's like all this shit. Oh, inflation and the supply and the demand, and it's all bullshit to me. You know what I mean? Like we live on planet Earth, or we're in America, and it's like what all of a sudden all the productivity in the world just dried up? Like, the fuck out of here. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, the problem is people are fucking around, manipulating the medium of exchange, which is money. It's a made-up thing. It's an abstraction. It's not real. And a lot of people can't wrap their heads around that. And that's where a lot of these issues unfold. So again, my attitude is we need a new system, but I already know how a lot of people are locked in. There's a lot of people that are like hard work. So I got a number of colleagues of mine that are like hard work, responsibility. You know what I mean? And all I got to do is bring up their kids, and the room gets quiet. I'm like, all right, motherfucker, mister, I live in a $700,000 home. You tell me how your kids are going to afford that. Right? You tell me how they're going to afford that. You make that type of money, but how are your kids going to be able to afford that? Where are they going to live? Them motherfuckers get super quiet. They get super quiet. I'm like, the shit doesn't work. And then not only that, if the prices of, let's say the prices of your home keep going up the way that they've gone up over just the last 10 years, how much is your house going to be when your daughter is 18? It's going to be over $1 million. It's going to be over $1 million. They're like, they can't like wrap their head. I'm like, this does not work in perpetuity. It can't just keep going up into infinity. It doesn't work. It's not sustainable. So you have to find another model. And I don't know what that model is. I don't know what that model looks like. I don't know whether it's UBI, which is Universal Basic Income. I don't know. All I'm saying is the way that capitalism is working. See, everybody wants to talk about, communism, socialism, but they never want to talk about unchecked capitalism. Capitalism doesn't offend me. I think capitalism has an aspect to it of rewarding people who make innovations in society, right? Like that's what capitalism has going for it, right? But again, when it gets to a point where, people can't afford the basic necessity, you have a failed system. I say again, if 20% of my students are failing, then that's on them. But if 80% of my students are failing, then you have to look at the teacher. You have to look at the institution. And nobody wants to do that. And then you get white people that they try to conflate the system with some aspect of whiteness, or like how white people run things, or the idea that it's white, they're trying to protect the white system and everything's good for white people, but it's bad for all the minorities. Going back to that sort of Southern strategy, type of Lee Atwater model, right? That you're hurting the minorities, but you're benefiting, the whites. And I'm like, okay, white people, are you feeling that shit? Are you feeling the benefits of whiteness? Because that's not what I hear. That's not what I hear. What I hear is a whole bunch of struggle bus. That's what I hear. What I hear is a whole bunch of, what's the point? Why even fucking engage in anything? I'm just going to sit here, play Xbox, play Division 2, and build my character up. That's what I'm going to do. Right? That's one approach. Or you got the other approach where guys are trying to find their way out of the matrix. You know what I mean? Like, you got people registering businesses and other shit, trying to come up with, as many jobs as, ideas that they can. But here's the problem with that. Like, America was not built off of that. And again, maybe the whole thing is artificial because, again, World War II was artificial. Like, the post-World War II was artificial to have that type of boom of economy because you had, Europe was bombed to hell, Japan was bombed to hell, the rest of the world was not developed. America's going to have a hell of a time trying to maintain being a superpower because everybody else is more educated, they're more informed around the world, they have skills, right? It's not the idea that everywhere else in the world is some third world backwater. People still have this mentality. Like, I checked somebody about that the other day. I'm like, they're like bitching, oh man, they're cheap Chinese made something. And I'm like, you do realize that like 90% of shit is made in China. And 90% of your electronics are made in China. Shenzhen. Like he had a fucking a damn Anker freaking battery charger. I'm like, Anker is from China. Like the Anker, for your fucking iPhone or your Android or whatever. Those power cells, Anker, Anker, yeah, made in China. Like they using shit that's made in China and they don't even realize it's made in China. Made in China, made in China. I like that song by the what's the name of that group? The damn something boys. Damn, what's the name of that group? I can't think of what it is. Anyway, but the whole, and this is where like the evil shit comes in that the white oligarchs do is, we got to destabilize regions around the world so that we can exploit them, right? And it's like, okay, they do that, and then the proletariat white people are mad that they have an immigration problem. Again, like what I forget what that guy said on what's his name, on Joe Rogan, where he was quoting somebody else, but he said, invade the world, invite the world. That shit resonated with me. I'm like, yeah, if you go around the world destabilizing regions, and honestly, who really benefits from that, right? The corporations might, but it's not trickling down. That's that trickle-down economics bullshit. Just trickling down on you, right? When they're really pissing on you, telling you it's rain. And a lot of y'all don't get that. It's always been classism before racism, because when y'all were in Europe, you were underneath feudalism. And I told you to look up these labor conflicts that only involved white people. The Homestead Act, Ludlow Massacre, the Latimer Massacre, and the Memorial Day Massacre. That's because the white oligarchs didn't want to pay anybody. That shit had nothing to do with the blacks are breathing up all the white man's air. Like y'all really have to understand that. But until you understand that, you guys are going to be running around there playing soldier in the woods with your white nationalist groups, thinking that you're doing something. Over there, playing soldier with Patriot Front with your khakis on. And I'm like I said, shit is different. It's different now. Because seriously speaking, even though we need to form Voltron, like, it ain't gonna be no, oh yeah, a black guy, let's form Voltron, and then when everything's over, it's yeah, nigga, now get to the back of the bus. and we'll be living in the suburbs, and y'all stay right there in the ghetto. And now that we're good, we're gonna, continue with this idea of where white people as a collective disproportionately hold a majority of the wealth. Fuck you. Let this bitch burn down. If that's the case, let this bitch implode. One of the main concerns that I have, which is why I'm telling black people, y'all need to stockpile guns and ammunition like a motherfucker. Because if this shit actually does tank or take a severe dive, or something tragic happens, the dollar collapses, whatever, because again, those nations out, the rest of the world is tired, as Colonel Douglas McGregor said, right? They're tired of being fucking bullied. America is a bully. America operates through imperialism. That is what America has been. Sabotaging, going around the world, fucking with other people's shit. You see, and again, so that you can have a little bit of comfort. So there is some level of responsibility in that when it comes to the American people. I see all this stuff about, the cartels and Latin America and everything. If you even looked up the destabilization of Latin America that the CIA has done, it's insane. It's insane. It's like, hey, why don't you stop destabilizing Latin America and help them get rid of the fucking cartels and create economic opportunities down there, and then maybe so many people wouldn't be fleeing for safety to America across the American borders. No, because the oligarchs want their cheap labor, and they still want to be able to exploit those countries, for things like produce and shit like that, like they did the Banana Republic. If you don't believe me, Google or Wikipedia the Banana Republic, which was Guatemala, and look up, how that shit, happened. You know what I'm saying? I mean, just look at it. And you'll understand that shit. But y'all gotta understand, how things work. But a lot of y'all don't, because they don't teach this shit in school, man. They don't. People don't understand, how this shit works. And one of the better books of how this shit works, even though, the people will complain because they'll say, oh, it's anti-Semitic, is a book called The Unseen Hand. And by the way, if you ever want to find a book online, right? If you ever want to be able to find books online and be able to, oh man, don't tell me I went the wrong way. Fuck. Yeah, if you ever want to find a book online, just type in the book that you want, right? Especially if it's a really old book. Type in file type, right? Colon, and then put PDF, and it'll pop right up. File type colon PDF, not semicolon, colon, which is the two dots. And then you'll be able to find it. Son of a bitch. But anyway, let me end this video because I gotta pay attention. I really gotta pay attention to what the fuck I'm doing right now. So that's my video. SWP out. Don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe.